And welcome to the Long Game Podcast. Today's guest, the great A.C. Carter, back in town to have his iconic number 23 retired at the Stan Sheriff Center Arena rafters. Wow, just incredible to have you in studio. How does it feel to be back home?
Thank you. It's been a long time coming. After 20 years of not being here and coming back, seeing some familiar faces, it's just going to be a wonderful time out here, and I'm looking forward to enjoying it.
Your first time back in the islands in 20 years. That is insane to think.
It feels like I never left. A lot of things are the same and a lot of things have changed. But, once I get in that arena and see some familiar faces and some fans and some of the people that work there, it's just going to be just like yesterday.
Has the significance of the announcement hit you yet that your number will be hanging in the rafters?
Not really. I'm very appreciative and, very blessed that, somebody think that highly of me, but I'm not the type of guy like when it comes to like achievements and things like that. It doesn't get me excited, but maybe my jersey being retired, I think something might come over me once it really happens.
Some of our listeners, they'll be able to go and track down this video, but when the announcement was made, I got to say the University of Hawaii Athletics Department did a very good job at making this happen with Patty Mills coming to surprise you. Your reaction when that played out and he let you know that it was happening?
They kind of tricked me. So what y'all saw in the video wasn't supposed to be like that, what I had in my hand, but it was a big surprise. Patty was there trying to get coffee with me to surprise me. But I was busy at that time, and finally they came up to my apartment building and was at the pool, and I walked out, and he had the plaque in his hand, and he gave it to me. I was like, why everybody here with this University of Hawaii stuff on? And then he just gave me the news, and it was like amazing.
Where do you live full time now?
In Miami.
In Miami, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, so quite the trip to get out here. It's great to have you back. And this pod, we go down memory lane. We start with your journey from the beginning. Growing up, what did basketball represent for you?
That's the way I got out of my hood. I didn't have anything expecting, but it was just a way for me to stay out of trouble at a young age. And basketball gave me everything that I have now, and it brought me joy. And hopefully it brought a lot of other people joy for all the teams that I played for, from AAU to middle school, high school, college, and in the NBA. And so I just try to represent the name that's on my back and to the highest, to the highest. And I'm just grateful to be able to play basketball.
How old were you when you got started?
I would say 5 years old.
5 years old, okay.
That's when I first picked up a ball, but I didn't play organized basketball until I was about fifth grade.
Fifth grade.
Fifth grade.
Until then, it's a lot of pickup games. Kind of how did it play out for you?
It was just having fun, and then when I got to the age where I was able to get on the team, it started at the Boys and Girls Club in Atlanta. And we had like different age groups where we would play against other different boys clubs. And we would just compete in different tournaments over the weekend. But that was my way to stay out the hood. And once I got out of school, I would just go to the Boys and Girls Club and play basketball till like 9 p.m. at night. And then I just fell in love with the game and just kept playing it every day. And, next thing you know, I just started taking it a little bit more seriously.
Mm-hmm. Hours and hours each day, huh?
Hours and hours. Get out of school at 2:30, leave the boys club at 9 p.m.
At what point did it hit you that this was something that you had a future in and you could take this pretty far as long as you wanted to?
Well, I tell everybody this. I never looked at it that way. In the fifth grade, you have to write an essay in Atlanta in school, what you want to be when you grow up. First thing I said was an NBA player, but not knowing that I was going to do that. But I just saw the way that I was watching the games and watching the kids older than me play. And that's just something that I wrote in an essay. And then not knowing that it was going to get me this far, I never expected to make it to the NBA. I never expected to go to high school, college, none of that stuff. I just played the game because I loved it. And the way I played it, people saw something special in me. And it just took me this far.
Did you find that from an early age you were consistently playing against guys that were way older than you?
100%, because I was always better. And I always got picked first. So I never played with my age from a young age. I was 10 playing 12 and under, 12 playing 15 and under, 15 playing 18 and under. So I was always playing against guys older than me, bigger, faster, and stronger. But as long as you had heart and you wanted to compete every day and hated to lose, every time I lost, I was ready to fight somebody. So that gave me a competitive edge because I knew I was a little bit tougher than some of those other guys.
Right? It shapes your game very early, right?
It
Like,
does.
okay.
It does. Then when you got 20 people waiting on the sideline, you don't want to lose because you got to wait 3, 4 more games to play. So that's why, you had to fight for every point or get every stop because you're going to have to sit out.
Who did you model your game after?
Growing up, I was looking at Magic Johnson and Grant Hill. Those was my two favorite, but I didn't model my game after them. I just knew that like they played both ends of the court and they made the right passes. So it was more about me, about the passes, but the competitiveness and the skill set, I wasn't skilled as them. But just like the way they played the game, like really who I modeled my game after.
You're talking about starting in the early morning, playing till after 9 o'clock at night. What was going on at home that lent itself to those long days?
Just like no food and drugs and alcohol and my grandmother, she had 7 boys and 7 girls, and every one of them was in and out of jail as far as the guys. But, my aunts, a couple of them was on drugs and stuff. But I just knew it wasn't nothing at home for me to do. And I just kind of wanted to go and do something that I really wanted to do, and that was to play basketball or just hang out with people that was doing the right thing because I know, like, I'm going home to do nothing. And I'm the type, I was always busy as a young kid. And my uncles and everybody like used to scare me with like jail stories when they come home from jail or prison. And it kind of scared me straight. So I was just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be in this environment. So the boys club was my outlet.
Who are some of the influential figures along the way that helped, you had, the realization on your own, like this is a path I do not want to go down. Some of the people growing up as well that helped kind of, okay, this is how we can really get out of this situation.
It was a guy named Mr. Parnion. He was like the director at the Boys and Girls Club. Like I wasn't even supposed to be there, like, cause you're supposed to be 6 years old before you can go. But he was letting me come there at 5 years old. Cause like I said, some people see something in you that, a lot that you don't see in yourself. And so he was the first one. And then I met this guy named Lou Hayden. He's one of the chairmen of the I Have a Dream program. And, when I was a high school dropout, and when I was in the 5th grade, they promised us if we maintain the C average, they'll pay our way through college. And then when I dropped out, he helped me get back in school to go back and get my GED, then go to a junior college. So he was the second person. And then when I got to like the NBA, Pat Riley was the third person, the guy that I played for. And I tell everybody, if I didn't play for the Miami Heat my first 4 years, I wouldn't have lasted in the NBA for 13. So those are some of the people. And I always looked up to my grandmother. She's the number one because she had 7 boys and 7 girls. So she had 14 kids and she worked 2 jobs. And then she had to raise all her grandkids because of the situation that we was in.
Remarkable. I want to get into the Miami Heat days because I hear so much about Heat culture. We're going to dive into that. How would you describe your journey, though, to the University of Hawaii?
I would say it was a blessing. Me coming from Atlanta, leaving Atlanta, going to the junior college in Saddleback in California, I would have to give the credit to Coach Willer. He was the one that was making those consistent trips out there, trying to convince me to come to University of Hawaii. And out of all the scouts and stuff that was recruiting me, he showed me the love the most. And then when I came out here on my recruiting trip and I saw like the University of Hawaii volleyball team, they was number 1 in the nation. And I saw how crazy the fans was. I said, this might be something that I might want to be a part of. But I still had 2 other trips that I had to take to go and visit. So I didn't take all 5 of my recruiting trips. So I took 2. And then I was like, called Coach on my 3rd one. And I was like, Coach, I'm coming here to University of Hawaii. And then it just took off from there. But the experience is just nothing like it.
What did you make of University of Hawaii basketball and where the Bows were at that time during your recruiting trip?
I didn't really care at the time. because I knew like the type of player that was coming in. Because I already had a relationship with Michael Kroger. He went to Saddleback, and Eric Ambrosius, and he went to Saddleback. And then when I met Alika, it just kind of took it over the top because I knew once I met him, he was a lefty, and I saw that he can shoot the ball and how skilled he was. And then I know like either he's going to play the point guard and I'll be the two, or I play the point guard and then he can be the two. And then I knew we had 4 great players already that had good skill set. And then the rest of it just took care of itself after that. But once I met those guys, it was a no-brainer for me to come here.
What was Riley Wallace's recruiting pitch to you, if there even was one?
That's what I was telling you. It wasn't him. It was Coach Willer. He was the one that was consistent. And, the things like we was like cracking jokes all the time. He would just like be up front with me, and we were talking about different things, but I can't talk about on here, but just the way he was keeping it real with me. And, I'm always the type of person, like, you keep it real with me, you're going to get everything out of me. But you lie to me once, I'm not going to be in it for you. And so he was always up front. This is where it's going to be. You're going to be using this situation. And once I met Coach Riley, he kind of reiterated what Coach Willis said and was like, we're going to try to build a team around you. And not because of my skill set, just because of my heart and the way that I played the game.
Your impressions of that first practice with the Bows and beginning that process of building a program?
My first impression was I was going to set the tone. I was going to see who's going to be scared, who I could like take whatever spot from. Because I know they promised me like a spot on the team or whatever.
Who was in front of you in the depth chart, I guess, when you first come in as a recruit?
It was like we had who was here the first year? Aaron Carter. He was from Oakland, and then like I said, I didn't really know Alika like that, but I knew like we was going to be going head to head for that spot, And then I forgot who else was here, but when it came to the first practice, I just had to set the tone. I'm trying to like beat everybody up and trying to see who I can just like. It wasn't even the first practice. Like we were playing pickup, because we had to get to know each other. And then that's when I was just like cussing guys out and see who's going to back down and things like that. And then, but I knew it was going to be mine once I set the tone like that.
Almost takes you back to the Boys and Girls Club days, right? Going up against or AAU guys.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's important.
Or playing the street ball.
Right.
That's what really got me playing the street ball, though. Because I was playing against grown men, and I was only 15, 16 years old. And I never backed down for nobody.
And the grown men must have been losing their mind when you were a teenager and, busting them up on the court.
Yes. But that's how I got discovered, too, though. I got discovered like that. And that's how I went back to junior college.
Oh, man. Those early days then with the Bows, what did you identify as the strengths of the roster?
Just our cohesiveness. We knew where each player was going to be. And me being a point guard, I knew I had to get Alika going. And then he was my main guy. Like, I had to cuss him out a few times. Like, dude, you were too good not to be shooting the ball. And then, like, so he'll kind of step up. Then my second option was Eric Ambrosius, because I knew he had a skill set that a lot of guys did not have as far as a post. He was a big. And then his footwork, his finish with his left hand, right hand. And that was my second option. And then me, I was going to be the third option. I could care less about scoring. I just did whatever we needed. And then I knew Michael Kroger, he was going to play hard and frustrate people like Dennis Rodman. So we kind of knew, I knew, everybody's skill set and what role I wanted them to play. And then I forgot who we had at center. I think it could have been Seth Sundberg. But I just knew, everybody's skill set. And then me being a point guard, I was going to run the team. And if they ain't falling in line, me and Coach was going to have a talk. And we were going to get somebody else in there to do the job.
Building a rapport with Alika Smith, what kind of work did that take?
None, because he was smart enough, and me being street savage, he just needed to get his brain freeze. Sorry, he just needed to get his confidence, and then by me being from the street and let him know ain't nobody gonna mess with you, like playing against Fresno State, UNLV, those guys that's gonna try to punk you. But when I first met him, I knew he had the skill set. It was just about bringing it out of him, because he was used to like playing against local guys, and nothing against local guys, but like I said, me and him just hit it off day one. He can shoot, he can get to the rim, he can finish, he can handle the ball, but it was just about giving him that confidence.
Did you find there was a little bit of that, okay, being around Hawaii guys and playing with local guys, no offense to the Hawaii basketball scene, but there's a tendency to, be deferential or, be passive. But it was a moment of like, okay, no, we got to light a fire here.
Yes. No, that's basically what it was. I had to make him shoot the ball because he didn't want to be selfish, but he was the best shooter on the team, the best scorer on the team, to be honest, between him and Eric Ambrosi. Like I said, I could score the ball, but their skill set was better than mine because I only knew one way to play, and that was hard and just try to run through people or just try to take other people out the game, things like that. But once he got that, I'm talking about this dude was like, he was showing so much enthusiasm, pumping his fist, and just letting the ball go with no hesitation.
Past players have described Riley Wallace's coaching style as one of a kind. Your thoughts on the types of practices he ran?
I would say, they were great practices. Like if you're not a hard worker, the things that he would do, it will make you quit. And, me coming from where I came from, like, can't nobody break me down. I'm here to play basketball, and that's the way he coached. And I always wanted, like I said, a coach to be up front with me and push us till we think that we can't go no more. If it's cussing us out, making us run, I never had a problem with him. It's always the players that have something against the coach because they're not used to it, or they think the coach is picking on them, or they think they deserve something instead of earning it. So growing up these days, you have to earn stuff, and people don't look at it like you think you're better than somebody else, but this player is doing something that you're not doing on the court. So that's why he's getting the minutes, and you're more talented, but you're not getting those minutes because you're not a team player or you're not running the offense. You can't remember the plays. Like a lot of that stuff plays into it. But with Raleigh practices, it was nothing to me, because I knew he was going to bring the best out of me. And then I didn't want to go all the way back home, as a failure, even though a lot of people had wrote me off. But once I got here, I just looked at it as a second opportunity, and I took advantage of it.
When the conversation comes up of AC Carter's teams with the University of Hawaii, two massive upsets come to mind. You know what I'm talking about, Indiana and Kansas. Let's start with the Indiana game, 1997-98 season. Nationally ranked Hoosiers with Bobby Knight come to town. What were the conversations that week about how you guys were going to be taking on this squad?
Which one?
Indiana.
I don't even remember the conversation, but I just knew like he was a hard coach, and Coach Wallace, he was just like, if you take them out early, coach gonna start yelling at them. He's gonna start cussing them out. Like Bobby Knight, he was gonna start cussing them out, and then they were gonna lose confidence. Like I guess he saw that on film or the scout report, and we knew we just had to just hang in there. And they had a guy named AJ Guyton. He was supposed to be a top pick in the NBA and this and that, and that just raised my antennas. Like, okay, he's supposed to be this good, so let me guard him. So I took the challenge of guard him because I always wanted to guard the best player. But we just knew that we had to stay close in the game. And then what got us over the top every time was the fans. The fans was just like, when we played somebody ranked, they was out of their mind. Our fan was out of their mind. And so they was the one that really helped us win those games.
Yeah, just because it's like it slowly builds, right? Like, okay, you're hanging around, and the next thing you know, you see how sports play out, right?
Yep.
Pressure is going to be falling on that team. Like, okay, are you going to choke or are you going to wilt in this big moment? What do you remember of Bobby Knight losing his mind on the sideline?
It was just fun to see. Once you see the head coach lose it, so the player's gonna lose it. And then when they get taken out of the game, he cussing them out, and then they body language, like you can just tell by their body language, like they defeated. So when they get cussed out, then he'll sit them down, and then he might not put them back in the game. So we knew, like, if we take the head of the snake out, and that was AJ Guy at the time, the rest of them was gonna fall too. So it wasn't no brainer to us, like. Me, like I said, being from the streets, I always took the challenge on the best guy, and I knew if I take that guy out, we gonna score enough points because we ran our stuff and we ran it to the T, our offense. But if we just get stopped, the rest of it was history.
You break the top guy, everybody else falls.
100%.
How much did that Indiana game fuel what you guys did with Kansas a few weeks later? Because set the stage a little bit, right? This is Kansas Jayhawks, second-ranked team in the country at the time.
Second-ranked.
Roy Williams, Paul Pierce.
Paul Pierce did not play that game. Oh, no. Rafe LaFritz didn't
Rafe LaFrentz didn't play.
Yeah, he didn't play that game. So that was like, ooh, okay. That was a big help. But just knowing that they was number one and how excited the fans was before that game or leading up to that game, like, they were just so hyped. They was in there early, and once Aaron Galloway had a big block and knocked the ball in the stands, and once we went on that run, like, it was just, like, unbelievable. Then Lika started getting going. I think I had a subpar game. I think I had, like, 16 points, about 7 assists, and about 4 or 5 rebounds, I think. And but it wasn't about the numbers. It's about doing all the little things. And like I said, like, the best guys, like, who was way better than us, it was like 2 other guys that was, like, really good, and they didn't have no good game. So we knew, like, okay, we can beat them. And then, like I said, once Garen Alloway got that block, it was over with. Them fans went crazy.
Describe the feeling of knowing when you're playing a team like that, and you're frustrating their best guys, and you hear the crowd behind you, and just the momentum that builds up behind you, and knowing that you're breaking their spirit.
That's the best feeling. It's at every level. When you got a good fan base or a great fan base, that's all you need. You can go on a 6-0 run, and then that could just change everything. And at the NBA level, it's the same thing. Once you see teams get frustrated, or you take out their best player, trapping them or double teaming their best player, it's so easy, and then the rest of it going to take care of itself because they're going to have bad body language. They're going to start yelling at each other, and it's always come down to the team that sticks together at the end.
Your thoughts on the college basketball landscape at the time, because looking back on it, that WAC conference and that grind was just a slog. Just what was it like going through just the entire conference slate to get to the tournament potentially?
It wasn't a big deal to me. Like, I didn't look at things like that because I'm just a competitor. You know what I'm saying? And then whoever's supposed to be better than us, that's who I always wanted to play. If it was UNLV or Fresno State or BYU, whoever was better than us. Even when we played Utah, Nebraska, like all those teams, like it wasn't a big deal to me because I just looked at them as another school. But the slate going through it was just like, we just want to make it to the conference or the WAC tournament. Everybody make that, but we were trying to make it to the NCAA tournament. But unfortunately, somebody always got hurt on our team, and then the NCAA just didn't give us a shot after that. We lost Seth Sallenberg one year. And then I forgot what happened the second year, but it is what it is.
What does AC Carter make of the NIL era?
If it was going on when I play, I probably wouldn't have ended up here.
I was going to be my next question.
No,
would you have broken Hawaii fans' hearts going into your senior year if NIL existed? And, I mean, that's a conversation, right? I mean,
I've never been the type about money. And I tell people this all the time. If I'm not having fun, I'm not going to stay around. Even when I retired from the NBA, I played 13 years, but I still was, like, effective. But I was in Toronto, and I wasn't having fun. I'm practicing every day. And then me and James Johnson, we killing in practice. but me and him is not in the rotation. So I was there, and then my family at the time was in Denver, and my son, he was growing up, starting to play basketball. And then I just said to myself, I told my ex-wife, I was like, I'm not playing basketball no more. I'm not having fun, and I'm away from y'all, this and that. And I just walked away from the game. I was telling Eric last night, if I'm not having fun, I'm not just going to do it for the money, because somebody else can be getting that money and be happy. But it's just not about the money with me. It's about a great situation and great people, because I'm a people person. If somebody all in with me 100%, I'm going to be all in with them and their program, no matter how much money. And the same way with my son, he could have left Providence and went somewhere else. But he was like, Dad, I don't want to go nowhere else. The fans love me here. I'm going to stay here. The money he got from Providence a couple of years ago before he got drafted, he could have left and got way more money, but he told me, Dad, I'm not leaving. I want to do it for the fans.
That's a refreshing take to hear.
Yes.
Especially in this day and age.
Yes. I try to teach him young. It's not about the money. It's about, showing loyalty to everybody. That's what it's all about. The money going to come if you do the right things.
After the University of Hawaii, describe the grind that it takes to get into the NBA.
It's tough, especially if you're a borderline player, and then I was supposed to get drafted my senior year, dislocated my shoulder. And then so I had to take the scenic route instead of, the main route. So, that was a struggle for me, supposed to be drafted and not getting drafted. But a lot of guys always think like they've made it, and they don't understand like it's a grind, because it's only 400 players in the NBA. And the route that I had to take, I didn't know if I was going to get a second chance. So that summer, I had shoulder surgery, worked my way back up. Miami Heat gave me a shot on a summer league team, and it just took off from there. But it's so hard to stay in the NBA. A lot of guys think they're going to make it, but a lot of guys stop working once they get the money. And I tell guys all the time, it's harder to stay in it than it is to get in it, because it depends on the organization. Some teams, some organizations are going to hold you accountable, and some it's not. So it's easy for you to just get off track. But the main thing I try to tell them is, like, you got to continue to work hard, regardless if you feel like you're not getting enough. You have to do things on your own sometimes to keep yourself ready.
That's the game, is to stay motivated,
yes.
Stay locked in.
Yes.
What is Heat culture?
Heat culture is you going to be the best version of yourself that you never knew you had. As far as, like, your weight and body fat, you're going to be in the best shape. You're going to be able to take off your shirt, you go to the beach. Like somebody like me, 50 years old, I can't take off my shirt right now. But you with the Miami Heat culture, you're gonna have 6% or less body fat, and they're gonna have you playing at a weight that Pat Riley wants you to play at. And so then it comes down to it, you're gonna be in the best shape. The Heat culture is not for everybody, because some superstars feel like they're way better, and it's just too strict and this and that. But the Heat culture is not like that. When I played, it was strict because there was no time limit on practices. We can practice 3-4 hours. Now you go over an hour and a half, the player's going to complain, or you're going to get a call from the Players Association and this and that. Then you could do 2 days back then. So that is like practicing twice a day. When I play, you can do 3 hours, in the morning, then come back and do 3 hours later. Now you can't do that in the NBA. So now everybody just have one practice during training camp, and it's no longer than an hour and a half. So, but the Heat culture is the Heat culture. And once you leave there, there's a lot of players that don't even be heard of after they leave there, because it's not the same work ethic. It's not the same grind. And you don't have coaching staff or the coaches holding you accountable, because a lot of players get their money and then they go somewhere else and then they just fall off the map. I've seen it while I was playing, and I seen it as a coaching staff with the Heat. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, wow, this is like where everybody fall off at.
The body fat and the conditioning aspect, this is something that is not at a lot of other NBA franchises?
100%.
Wow.
A lot of guys use training camp these days to get in shape. But in Miami, you got to be in there 2 months before getting in shape. So once you get to training camp, you already in shape. And then that's when a lot of guys get hurt. like when they're trying to use training camp and then they trying to ramp it up. But with the Miami Heat, you got a conditioning test. They're going to have you at whatever weight and body fat they want you at. And if you don't pass the conditioning test, you got to keep doing it every day until you pass it. And then it's just like everybody's watching you. So they're going to see who's the one that belongs and don't belong because you're not taking it seriously. And but the weight and body fat is something serious, but you're going to be in the best shape. And they're going to develop you where they're going to make you an all-star. If you're not an all-star, they're going to get you paid 60, 70 million because they build you to play in the playoff, not to play you during the regular season. So when somebody will go down, you stepping right in. So a lot of teams just have you sitting there and not developing you. But in Miami, you're going to be ready to play soon as you step on the court.
When you signed with the Heat undrafted, was there a moment, whether it's in the early days of, training with the team, where you realized, like, I'm in the right spot where I'm supposed to be?
100%.
It's all clicking.
Yep. I knew I was in the right spot because of my work ethic and the way they held me accountable. And even though I was in Miami, and I looked at it like this is my third chance, because I wasn't supposed to get drafted coming from where I came from. And then, like I said, I just played the game, just to play the game. But then when I got to training camp and they was like, they can't get me off the court because I played so hard. And then that's when I signed that contract and everything just took off from there. And I knew once I made it, I was like, called my grandmother, told her she don't have to work no more. And that was my motivation.
To be able to do that call.
To do that right there. And, I told her, like, once I got that third chance to try to make it to the NBA, I told her she ain't got to work no more.
You seem like someone that doesn't get very emotional. You said that, the accomplishments and being recognized, everything isn't something that motivates you. But to be able to do that, it seems like that would be something that is emotional and kind of.
No, that was the most rewarding thing that I ever done. Like when it comes to accolades, like a lot of my trophies and stuff I want here, jerseys, shoes, everything I've given away. I don't have no man cave. I don't have nothing. Like anybody asks me for something, if I got it, I'm giving it to them. And that's the way I've always been. But when it comes to my grandmother, I know she was one that raised me. And all the work that she had to do, her husband passed when I was like 7 years old. And she had work and keep the lights on, working 2 jobs, walking to work. And all her kids like waking her up middle of the night, asking her for $1 or some money to go buy crack or whatever, and to get high. And that just motivated me once I was able to make it to the NBA. And I knew that I was going to be in a position where she didn't have to work no more.
That's magnificent. There have been stories where the Heat, you've seen that star players don't get star player treatment.
Yep.
Did you see an example of that in the early days with Miami?
Not when I played, no, because everybody knew. Like everybody knew, like you had to be on your game.
So Alonzo Mourning is not, taking any
no
possessions off or anything.
No. I'm talking about, but that's the difference. They hold Tim Hardaway accountable. Pat Riley's cussing him out, cussing Zoe out. If you ain't doing what you're supposed to do, he taking you out of the game. It was a game where Tim wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. Coach, like, that's why I bench you, you know what I'm saying? Or I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. He taking me out. Like, wasn't nobody too good to be on that team. He didn't care who you was. These guys are Hall of Famers. And he just held everybody accountable. And that's what you want in a coach and in an organization.
The most valuable lesson you took from Pat Riley?
I would say just the work ethic. The work ethic. Without that, I wouldn't be in the NBA, or I wouldn't have lasted that long, because I know, like, those other teams that I went to, I had to keep myself in shape. Mm-hmm. And like I said, you're going to go to practice for 30, 45 minutes. And I was like, what the hell? We ain't doing nothing. So I'm coming in early, doing full court drills, trying to keep myself in shape. But just the work ethic, and there it is what I take away from him. And he didn't care who you was. He going to treat you like everybody else, 1 through 15.
And as you said, those years with Miami Heat helped shape a 13-year NBA career as a veteran. Over that time and throughout your career, how did you find that your game and playing style evolved?
Just the players that I played with on different teams. Like I knew like my role with the Miami Heat, I was a backup point guard. And then when I went to Denver, I was a backup point guard. And then like I played with the second unit. So my second unit in Denver, we was a fast paced team. So we ain't run no plays. Like I said, I knew my personnel.
Those are the George Karl Nuggets.
Yes.
Melo
Melo
was there. Yeah.
Kenyon Martin, Marcus Camby, J.R. Smith, Nene Hilario. Like we had
Fun
those
team.
guys. Fun team, but everybody wanted to play with the second unit because we didn't have one player we were going to get the ball to. Like I said, J.R. Smith was my first guy, my first option I'm giving the ball to. Then Lennox Glazer, he was my second. And then Birdman, he just wanted to lob. You get him a lob every now and then, he going to try to block everything. And so it was just like everybody knew their role. And then when I went to Minnesota, it was about Sam Cassell, Spreewell, and KG, Wally Zerbiak. I played with all those guys. And so same thing with the second unit. I knew like who I was going to get the ball to. But everybody always wanted to play with me because they knew like I'm a guard and I'm going to make everybody have fun. But it's all about knowing your personnel.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What did you make of how the league also evolved during that time? Because, you're talking about time being in Denver. Well, when you first get in, right, 99, it's post-Jordan. Then mid-2000s, it's Kobe, and then LeBron's coming just around the corner. And just kind of the progression of how the association changed over time.
Back when I played, it was more about post-up. It was more about bigs. And then the games went to, like, one-on-one players. Like, who had the best one-on-one players? It was, like, AI, like Allen Iverson, Baron Davis, Kobe. It was, like, those guys like that. And then when the game evolved now, it's, like, positionless. So these days, it's like you got big man bringing the ball up. You got big man shooting threes. So the game have evolved so much, so different. Like that's why everybody always be talking about the eras, like who could play in this area, who could not, and things like that. And I just think like it's just a big difference right now, and it's a joy to watch. But I would like to see more guys compete on the defensive end because like nothing against Americans, but the Europeans are coming over here making a mark. They win a lot of MVPs and they take the game a lot more seriously than us. Those guys, they're not trying to come here and make friends. They come to whip you. And, we got to get that competitive fighting back, to the States and see what happens after that.
One of the great things, though, is being a veteran point guard. That is a timeless position in the NBA. And you see it come playoffs every single year, right? A second unit, somebody that can come off the bench and someone that can run the offense, turn it into a half-court game. That has to be rewarding to you to see that, hey, at the end of the day, it still comes down to who can make plays and who's willing to set guys up the right way.
Yes, and that's where guys like, even though he's not playing right now, but Chris Paul, and then Westbrook, like those guys come into play, because they've been there and done that. And by me being a point guard, that was my position, to be able to get us in the offense and go stand in the corner and get the ball to the players that needed it. But, the point guard position is a timeless position, like you said, because you really, only thing you have to do is get us into the offense and then just make corner threes, basically. And don't be a liability on defense. At least try to play a little bit of defense. But those is like, that is a position that's timeless because if you are big and you have to try to like score or try to defend, it's hard for those bigger type of players.
Yeah. You described the time in Toronto where it felt like it wasn't fun anymore. Is that also when you decided you wanted to get into coaching?
No. I mean, nothing against Toronto. It wasn't, Toronto as Canada, but it was more like me just wasn't having fun. Nothing against the organization, but it was just like when Kanye came to coaching, Pat Riley told me he can see me being a coach. George Carr told me he could see me being a coach. Greg Popovich, all of them that I played for told me they could see me being a coach. But at the time, I was like, I cannot coach these kids. Like these are spoiled kids. Like If they don't get their way, they're gonna pout. They're gonna quit on you. But then I was just sitting at home. George Carl called me and was like, "See,
What year is this?
when I retired, it was in 2012.
Okay.
When I got finished playing, like I took the rest of that year off after I left Toronto, and then Coach Carl was like, "AC, you ready to come coach?" I was like, "Nah, I'm just gonna chill. I'm not doing it, coach." He called me like a week later. He was like, "AC, I want you to come coach with me." And then he called me a third time. He was like, "I'm coming to Denver. I want you to have lunch with me." And then me and him went to lunch. And then he was like, "I'm finna take the job in Sacramento." And then he was like, "This is how much I'm going to offer you and this and that. And, I want you to come coach with me." I said, "Okay." And then that's when it kind of took off. We was there for 1 year. And then Coach Carr got fired. And then I continued to want to do it. And then that's when I reached out to all the GMs and all the head coaches. And then Spo reached out. He responded. And then that's where my coaching career took off with the Miami Heat.
You've known Eric Spoelstra for years then. You've seen his progression as a head coach.
He was my player development coach when I played. Him and Stan Van Gundy.
Wow.
It's crazy how the world works.
Right? It's actually
started there, and
time is a flat circle. How did it feel to join the Heat again?
It was awesome.
A different capacity.
It was awesome because, like I said, I knew the culture and I knew what they was about, and the player development program was like one of the best because we was known to get guys that D2, D3 guys that wasn't drafted or people just gave up on them and developed them into players. And like Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, Kendrick Nunn, like a lot of those guys was undrafted. And, the Miami Heat was the team that made those guys and got those guys paid. But I knew what I was stepping into because everybody on that staff was former players. Me, Quinny, Malik, Karan, all of us played for the Miami Heat, so it was a no-brainer. We was coaching staff that didn't have to worry about stepping on each other's toes because you got coaching staff that steps on each other's toes to try to make themselves look better. But we was in a position where we was all former players there, and we didn't have to do that because we was all on the same page. Whatever position or money you got, you deserved it, and we wasn't trying to move up because once you're a Heat coach, like they just gonna move you up. They're not trying to get you out of there. Like to this day, people that I was there with when I was the first player are still there.
Okay.
In '99, when I first went to the Heat, the media people, front office people are still there because once you're in the Heat culture, they just gonna move you up. They ain't gonna ship you out. Security people are still there to this day. To this day, like all of them got rings, and every time I go back, I go say hi to all of them.
From the guys that you described, Kendrick Nunn, Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson,
Max Strus,
it strikes me as you prefer to work with the guys that aren't heralded as the star recruits coming up, but have this work ethic that you can mold, you can get them to a special place.
And it reflects me, the way that I was trained. And I always like to take the challenge. I'm not big on like throwing my name on those guys because they are the one that's doing the work, and I like to stay behind the scene. And but when you got guys like that never complains, always hitting you up to come and get up extra shots or do extra cardio or do extra defense because they know that's what's going to get them on the court. And when you tell guys like this, why you're not on the court because you're not playing defense, now they willing to do it. And then when the opportunity come, they got better at it. Because like not to throw him out there, but during the playoffs when we were playing against Boston, they used to go at Max Strus and Duncan. So Max took the challenge in the playoff and was like, Spo was like, we're going to double team Tatum and Brown. Max was like, no. He wanted them one-on-one, and then he took the challenge and we had won the series because that was a challenge that he took where we didn't have to get out of defensive rotation. And, it's just things like that make you proud. And what people don't know, me, Max, and Gabe, we worked 3 years straight. Early in the morning. Pre-practice started at 9:30. We there at 8 or 8:30, getting their work in, and then they got to do pre-practice, and then we on the road. They say, you want to go get us shots? Yeah, let's go. And it showed.
That's awesome. Switching gears here, your son drafted in the first round by the Sacramento Kings.
Mm-hmm.
And just what did that mean to you to be able to see his progression and his rise into become an NBA player?
That meant everything, because a lot of people don't know what he went through. He had 3-4 surgeries, and he could have gave up. They don't know all the countless hours that he went through, even in high school. He was going to work out at 5 a.m. before school, and then he would shower at school. And I would go with him before I went to practice. And then we would have mornings where I would take him to the beach. I still have videos in my phone where we would go to the beach, and I would have him do defensive slide, close out, sprints on the beach, when he's in the 10th, 11th grade. A lot of kids ain't doing that before school. And then just the work ethic that he put in, like, I'm talking about countless hours, countless. And then when I was still like coaching, after my game, he wouldn't even come to the games. And then he would text me before the game and be like, can we get shots up after your game? So we in the gym, 12:30, 1 a.m., like getting up shots. And then when he got a chance to go to college, we still was doing the same thing. I never woke him up for a workout. I said, you got to tell me the night before what time you want to go. Yeah, I'm not calling you. When he was able to drive, I was already be at the gym. So I said, don't come 5 minutes before. I said, I want you to 15 minutes before, so we starting at this time. I'm not waking you up. You're going to wake yourself up. So I never had to wake him up, and I always let him tell me when he wanted to work out. And he just did all the work, and didn't nobody even know. Well, a lot of people didn't know I had a son. Like, to this day, a lot of people didn't know, AC, I didn't know you had a son. I didn't know that was your son, because I wouldn't let him post anything of me and him doing as far as workouts. If you look at his Instagram, it's no workouts of me and him. And then I was with the Memphis Grizzlies. My son came in for a pre-draft workout. They was like, AC, I didn't know that was your son. No, because he's doing his own work, and he's making a name for himself. So I made him earn it, and then there wasn't no pressure on him. Like when you got Anthony Carter Jr., now everybody expect for you to be like your father. And I wanted to stay out of the spotlight. Like I said, I never put my name on nothing. I stay behind the scene, and the product going to show on the court. And to this day, he was just here for All-Star in Miami for All-Star break. We was working out in Miami. No, you ain't. No, we don't post nothing. A lot of people don't know all the work that he do.
So that was a conscious decision on your part, like, going forward, social media, like, no, I don't want there to be any sort of, like, this is your own path right here.
Yes, that's his own path. And I'm not big on social media. I only have Instagram just to follow him. I don't post nothing. It's just him. That's it. Like, I don't post no workouts. I just see what he's doing. Like, I hate being on my phone. I could have left my phone at the hotel right now and don't worry about it. Like, that's how I don't be on nothing, no social media.
I love it.
I
love this mentality. No, I'm with you. Okay. And come to think of it, on that draft night, when I see it play out, I'm like, wait a minute, that's AC Carter's kid.
See? Yeah, a lot of people didn't even know. I just like to be humble. And like I said, when it's time for my name to be out there, people will recognize it. Like, when I got promoted to the Memphis Grizzlies on the front of the bench, I didn't look for that job. They had chose me because of the players. The players told them what type of person I was, how I would work them out on my work ethic. I'm just word of mouth. I just look at it like that. I don't put my name out there to be like, oh, I did this. No, the players, the coaching staff vouch for me.
So having your jersey retired for the University of Hawaii, that kind of ceremony, frankly, it must be kind of uncomfortable for you to be in the center of the spotlight like that.
I would say it's going to be uncomfortable, but, I just feel like I owe it to the fans, because they was the one that helped me get to where I am today. Without them, if I would have went to another school, I probably wouldn't have made it to the NBA. And, big thanks to my coaches and my teammates also. But like I always just go back to the fans, and like, I'm excited to get my jersey retired, but it doesn't excite me. I'm just a humble guy. Like I said, accolades, all that stuff, but at any level that you get your jersey retired is a special moment. And that's going to be like my proudest moment of my whole career. not my whole life, because my son is my pride and joy, and whatever he needs and whatever he wants, that's all it's about, is my son.
Thinking about everything that you've done in your career and also in your personal life, what's the most valuable life lesson and piece of advice that you'd like to share?
I would say never give up on yourself, and never think that you're better than nobody else. Treat people the way you want to be treated, and always stay humble. Because if you treat people the way you want to be treated and do all these other things, like, everything's going to fall in place. It might not be when you want it, but you got to be persistent. And if you persistent about things, everything's going to happen whenever it's supposed to happen. And like my situation, I wouldn't change anything, because God always had a plan for me, and my path was a little bit different. But, hard work and all that stuff pays off. And like I tell everybody, when it comes to coaching, whatever level, or train your kids or any kids, never tell them no about working out. Because if you tell them no once, they might not want to come and ask you to work out again. So I always tell coaches, always say, I can't do it right now. Can we go at this time? Or can we go later? But never tell a kid no. And that's just something that stuck with me, because you have kids these days be scared to talk to their parents or ask their parents to go do this or do that. So never tell your kid no. Just say, can we do it at this time or another day?
That hits right there. I love it. Anthony A.C. Carter, supreme dedication, a legendary work ethic, a legendary career. Thank you for being here, and congratulations. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Mahalo nui.
Mahalo.
This was an honor. Wow. That's the Long Game Podcast. You can catch past episodes on the H&N streaming app or wherever you get your pods. Aloha.